Okay, let's talk absolute values. First of all, let's just talk about what the definition of an absolute value is. If anything goes inside an absolute value, which are these two lines, anything that comes out is positive. When I see students make mistakes, they see this as a change the sign machine. For example, they may have learned that, the absolute value of -2 is 2, okay? Because whatever comes in here is going to come out positive. Why? Because, well, sometimes let's say we're talking distance, maybe a distance of a number line. If something goes left 2 spaces, it's -2, but we want to know, well, but what's the distance? Well, it went 2. So now it's going to be positive. There's other situations, but let's just stay right here. Just know that that's going to make a 2. But what happens if I have the absolute value of 2 and where I see students make mistake is they'll come out and say it's -2. It's not a change the sign machine. It's a make it positive. So what's the absolute value of 2? It's 2. Whatever's in here comes out positive. It is impossible to have a negative answer. So if you get a negative answer, okay, something went wrong. Okay, so it can't be a negative answer, or the answer is no solution. So let's go over here and let's take a look at what happens when you see the absolute value. Now, remember when we talk about doing the opposite of things. For example, if you see x plus 3, we go -3. If you see x minus 3, we go +3. If you see 3x, 3 times x, we'll divide each side by 3. If you see x over 3 or divided by 3, we'll times each side by 3. Well, if you see an absolute value, what do you do to both sides? Here's what you're going to do. Get rid of the absolute value, and you're going to go x equals 3, and you're going to go x equals -3. Okay, because a 3 will work. Because what's the absolute value of 3? 3. Well, -3 works. What's the absolute value of -3? The answer is 3. Okay, so each one will work, so I'm done. What's the absolute value of x here? The answer is 3 or -3. So let's go to this one here. What about absolute value is -3? Well, what do you do if you have a negative here? Well, guys, remember what we talked about absolute values? The absolute value is always going to come out positive. So if I'm asking you to find something that's going to come out negative, guess what? It doesn't exist. So while you're doing absolute value problems, if you get to the step where you have an absolute value and it says equals a negative number, you're done. You don't have to go on any further. Okay, it's no solution. So why don't we do a few problems to see how these work? Let me erase the board and come up with some things. Okay, so you notice I have two problems. One, I have some math to do inside the absolute value. And right here, I have numbers inside and outside. How are we going to handle that? I'll show you in just a moment. Okay, so let's move forward. Now, the time where you can make it equal to a plus or a minus, you're not allowed to do that until the absolute value is by itself. Is the absolute value by itself on the left? Yeah, it is. There's stuff in it, but there's nothing else messing it up. As soon as you get there, you go straight to the +7 -7. So I'm going to write 3x minus 2 equals 7. And I'm going to write, or I'll write an or here, sorry, 3x minus 2 equals -7. So I don't change this. I just write him twice, but I made it equal to 7, and I made it equal to -7. So now I just solved the problem. I'm going to add 2, boom, die. 3x equals 9, divide by 3, divide by 3. Hopefully we're getting really quick at problems like this by now. If not, go back and take a look at the chapters at solving equations. But notice, even though I can do these pretty quickly, I still write it all out. That way I don't make any mistake. Be more accurate. Did it really take that long? Not really. Let's see how quickly I can do this guy. +2, boom, die, 3x equals, signs are different, so I subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number, which is -5. Divide each side by 5, boom, boom, die, x equals -5/3, done. If your teacher wants you to write that in -1 2/3, that's fine. That's up to how your teacher does stuff with mixed fractions. These are your two answers. Done with the problem. Okay? Let's take a look at the next one over here. So now I've got, what would I do? Well, let me ask you this. What would you do if that was a parenthesis? Okay? That's how I want you to treat the absolute value. Just treat it like it's a parenthesis. So now remember, I can't do this magic right here until the absolute value is by itself. It's not. Well, what would you do if that was a parenthesis? Well, hopefully, the first thing you would do is you want to get the parenthesis stuff by itself. So the first thing getting in the way is this -3. So I'm going to go plus 3, okay? Boom, die. Now I'm left with 2, absolute value of x plus 1 equals 8. Okay, absolute value by itself? Nope, it's still got that 2 in front. What would you do if this were a parenthesis? Now you may go, distribute it. That's not what we're looking to do here, okay? And hopefully if you saw it with a parenthesis instead of distributing, it's a lot quicker if you saw it to do this. Divide each side by 2, okay? Boom. Now I'm left with absolute value of x plus 1 equals 4. Now that I'm there, absolute value is all by itself. Now I can write the two equations. X plus 1 equals 4. X plus 1 equals negative 4. Plus, hello. I have an x plus 1. I'm going to go minus 1, minus 1. And I'm going to get x equals 3. And over here, I'm going to go minus 1, minus 1. Boom. X equals, add a line, change a sign, negative 5. And those are my two answers, okay? So on this one, I got to go straight to it because the absolute value is by itself. This one, I had to do a little bit of math with the stuff outside the absolute value until the absolute value was all by itself, and then I performed my magic. So that's how you solve absolute values.